Los Angeles, a city of dreams, but for Khalil Rafati, it was a living nightmare. It was 2003 and he was lying on a filthy floor in a rundown house, overdosing for the 9th time. His body, skin and bones, his future, non-existent. He had nothing. No money, no home, no hope. This was it. The end. But somehow, he survived. And against all odds, that same man went on to build a multi-million-dollar empire. This is the true story of a man who hit rock bottom, living in conditions worse than you can possibly imagine. Let's dive in. I will never underestimate the power of resilience after learning this. Khalil was born in Ohio in 1970, and his childhood was far from happy. He grew up in a deeply dysfunctional household, where love and security were replaced with fear and neglect. It was a childhood filled with trauma, one that made him desperate to escape. Like many young dreamers, Khalil moved to Los Angeles chasing success. But instead of fame and fortune, he found himself caught in the city's underworld, nightclubs, parties, fast money, and eventually, hard drugs. At first, he was just selling. Cocaine, heroin, pills, whatever the Hollywood elite wanted, he provided. But in this game, there's one rule. Never use your own product. Khalil broke that rule. What started as partying turned into a full-blown addiction. Soon, he wasn't just supplying drugs, he was enslaved by them. By the early 2000s, everything fell apart. He was homeless, wandering the streets of Skid Row. His body was so thin and covered in sores that people thought he had AIDS. He was in and out of jail, his rap sheet growing, and then, the overdose. Paramedics found him lying lifeless on the floor, his 9th overdose, and yet somehow his heart kept beating. This is gonna blow your mind, and that's when something inside him changed. Chapter 2. The Turning Point. After years of living on the edge of death, Khalil made a choice. He checked himself into rehab. Withdrawal was brutal. Every nerve in his body screamed for heroin, but this time, he fought back. To survive, he took whatever jobs he could, washing cars, cleaning floors. It wasn't glamorous, but it was progress. And that's when he made a discovery that would change his life. Nutrition. While working at a rehab center, he started blending smoothies packed with superfoods for himself and for others trying to recover. And something incredible happened. These weren't just drinks, they were fuel. They helped people heal. They gave them energy, hope. And for the first time in years, Khalil had something worth living for. I bet you didn't know how Khalil Rafati turned his life around. With every penny he had, Khalil opened a tiny juice bar in Malibu. He called it Sun Life Organics. No investors, no safety net, just a man with a blender and a dream. At first, it was just another juice shop, but then word spread. Celebrities, athletes, health enthusiasts, they all started coming. His signature smoothies became a hit, and before he knew it, Sun Life Organics was booming, from one shop to multiple locations across California, from a broke addict to a self-made millionaire. But not everyone was a fan of Khalil's success. Some people accused him of using his tragic past as a marketing tool, profiting off his own suffering. Others slammed his business for its high prices, arguing that Sun Life Organics made health a luxury only the rich could afford. And yet, despite the criticism, the demand kept growing. Because Khalil wasn't just selling smoothies, he was selling a message that no matter how far you've fallen, there's always a way back up. Today, Khalil Rafati is more than a businessman. He's an author, a speaker, a mentor to those still struggling. His book, I Forgot to Die, became a bestseller, inspiring thousands. And his juice empire, still thriving. But what's the real success? It isn't the money. It's the fact that he didn't become a statistic. He didn't let his past define him. Because if a homeless heroin addict can rebuild his life, what's stopping you? Let's take a moment to watch a powerful clip from Khalil Rafati's interview with Melissa Wood Health and hear his story in his own words. I recommend watching the full interview. It's truly inspiring and filled with valuable life lessons.
Well, the shift was, I think the easiest way to understand it would be to go from victimhood, into taking sovereignty over myself. Like once I really truly was like, hey man, you're in your fucking 30s. So none of this shit that's going on has anything to do with your swim coach or your mom or your dad or 6th grade or the president or like Like, come on, dude. Like, everything going on in your life, good and bad, is your fault. And the moment that I was able to accept that, and it hurt.
That's the hardest thing for people to do.
It is. And it's fun to blame others. It's
just, you don't have to take ownership. There's
you don't have to take ownership.
Accountability.
It's a great way to anesthetize yourself, which we talked about earlier. It's much easier for me to pick somebody apart. And I was the worst of the worst. I was one of those guys that, like, if a guy was better looking than me, oh, he's gay. If a guy was like more fit than me, which isn't that difficult to be, but like immediately I'm like, yeah, the dude's steroids. Like, I was one of those guys. I was somebody that like had to blow out somebody else's candle because I thought that it was going to make my candle shine brighter. And what I didn't realize is everybody around me or anybody near me was picking up on those vibrational frequencies. And that's why all the doors were closed, because I was contracting. Jealousy is contracting.
You're pushing everything away. You're forcing every single thing out of your life.
Jealousy is contracting. Saying, oh, fucking, he probably born rich or his fucking parents had money. All of that is contracting. The miracles come when you're expanding. The miracles come when you're open. And rather than pointing the finger at everybody else, you're pointing the finger at yourself.
And you're honest with yourself.
What can I do? What can I do to become better?
So let me ask you, what's holding you back? Drop a comment below. Let's talk. And if you found this story inspiring, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more stories of resilience, success, and second chances. Because remember, rock bottom is just the beginning of your comeback.